I figured the easiest way to explain all of this would be to just take a quick video. Currently, this part is flush, or it's actually slightly behind. And over here, there's about 3/4 or 5/8 of an inch that's overhang. The overhang here to here has about a 1/4 inch difference. And this entire piece of granite was put in slightly crooked. So if you were to remove this backsplash, there's a big gap here that as it goes down this wall, gets smaller, and then once it hits the end of the wall, it's nice and tight, which has our point here, and then has a 5/8 inch gap along this wall. I'll show you that in a second. One way to kind of explain it, if this was going into the corner, the granite was installed at an angle, which leaves a gap here and a gap here, and then as it comes to the other side of the room, it's nice and tight. The reason that we did that, the cabinet here has about 3/4 of an inch more distance than the original cabinets we had, which meant that our granite would have ended here. To correct that, we had originally talked about separating this seam and sliding this piece over this way, but keeping it square with the wall on either side. That would leave this tight to the wall on this piece, but this piece would have a 3/4 inch gap, which would be covered by our backsplash. Instead of doing that, the guys decided that it would be a good idea to turn the entire piece at an angle to bring this line from here over to the edge of the cabinet, which gives us a slight angle. You can see there's a gap here that comes and gets tight here. That wasn't a huge deal to me until I realized that it also brought this part out. I'm going to go ahead and slide the oven out now. So if you're looking at this area, there's 5/8 of an inch gap, whereas in the corner there it's tight. To also kind of explain it, this line here represents where the cabinets used to end. This line represents where the cabinets end now. The guys took this piece of granite, which was nice and square against the back wall, and they turned it so that way it would end up meeting that final corner there. But that also left the gap here and pushed this corner out. So the problem that we have with that is that extra overhang here, because that corner is pushed away. It ends up giving it, like I said, 5/8 of an inch further away from the wall. That also creates this angle, and it makes it so there's more of a gap from here to here and less of a gap from here to there. That part wasn't the huge deal, but this was. So if we were to cut this line, which is already there, just detach the two pieces, keep this flush here and against this back wall, and then once we break that line, slide just this square over, this gap would then become on this side, but this piece of granite would be installed exactly where it's supposed to be, and that would fix our issue. The other thing that turning it at an angle did, which we did notice when they were here, and they said wasn't a big deal, the granite's overhanging beyond the wall, whereas before it was about 1/8 of an inch back, and it was flat on the opposite corner. So hopefully that helps explain what's going on. I obviously was willing to let them turn it at an angle if everything worked out like it was supposed to, and like they told me, everything would be fine. I didn't have a problem with it being at a slight angle because you would never know, but because there's that gap, that's the best solution to fix it. The guys wanted to take this piece and slide it out further, but then we would have a bigger gap between here than we're supposed to, and a bigger gap here, but everywhere else wouldn't have that same gap. And then the stove, when you push it against the wall, This is supposed to be in line with our backsplash, so this doesn't hang out. If I was to slide the stove out to this point on either side, we would have a gap here, and this would stick out past the stove. And we don't want that. We want our stove to be fully installed like it's supposed to be. So, like I said, I hope that helps explain everything. If you have questions, please ask.